Good afternoon all. Today we'll be learning SN1, SN2 reactions. So to start with, let's see what types of reactions are there. What type of cleavage of bonds occur. So there may be heterolytic. The bond breaking might take place heterolytically or homolytically. What do you mean by heterolytic? So when the bond breaking and bond forming where one of the element in the molecule takes an electron and other becomes electron deficient. So there is unequal distribution. That is known as
Sir,
huh? Hello.
slides are not visible.
Just a minute.
Slides are not visible.
Okay. Just a minute. Now, now visible.
Yes, sir.
Just start again. So we'll be doing SN1, SN2 reactions. As I said, there are two types of reaction: heterolytic reaction and reaction takes place heterolytic or homolytic. So what happens in heterolytic? When there is bond breaking and formation, the bonds are not equally shared. One of the element becomes electron deficient and another becomes electron rich. So there is unequal distribution of electrons when there is a reaction takes place. This is present in your ionic. So radical reaction is homolytic fraction. This occurs by equal distribution of electrons. So if you see an Rx, both of them gives a free radical. Now let's go for different types of ionic reaction. There will be substitution reaction, then there is elimination reaction and addition reaction. So substitution reaction is the reaction where one of the substituent from the substrate is replaced by another to give you a product. Okay, one of the substituent in the substrate is replaced by another reagent. So that is known as substitution. Elimination reaction is when there is loss of something from the substrate, where mostly in case of unsaturated. Addition reaction, simple type of reaction where there is a carbon in NH or a double alkene. When a nucleophile adds across it, you get an addition product. Okay, you get an addition product. So these are the three different types of ionic reaction. Now let's go for the nucleophilic substitution reaction. So what are things which are there? In a nucleophilic substitution, there should be a substrate, there should be a nucleophile. This nucleophile attacks the substrate with the loss of leaving group and the nucleophile replaces the leaving group. So this is known as substitution nucleophilic reaction. So you have got a nucleophile, substrate, product and a leaving group. So this is an overall basic thing about your nucleophilic substitution reaction. Now let's go for the types of nucleophilic substitution reaction. There is SN1 and SN2 type of reaction. So SN1 is nothing but substitution nucleophilic unimolecular reaction, whereas SN2 reaction is nothing but substitution nuclear bimolecular reactions. So in case of SN1 reaction, it is a two-step reaction, which the initial step is formation of your site carbocation, which is then followed by the fast attack of your nucleophile on the carbocation to give your product. Whereas in case of SN2 reaction, it is substitution nucleophilic bimolecular reaction. The nucleophile attacks and leaving goes simultaneous. So it is a simultaneous attack and release of your leaving group. So these are the two types of basic type of nucleophilic substitution reaction. So now let's go for SN2 reaction. Let's go for SN2 reaction. So SN2 reactions, we'll be studying about its reaction mechanism, kinetic, stereochemistry, substrate structure, nucleophiles, leaving group and solvents which are useful in case of your SN2 reaction. Okay, so necessary in case of SN2. So now let's see synthetic utility of your SN2 reaction. Variety of functional group can be prepared by employing an nucleophile and an electrophile with a good leaving group. So first of all, for this type of reaction, you should have a nucleophile. Then there should be an electrophile on which the nucleophile can attack, along with a good leaving group. When there is a good leaving group, then only an electrophile can be generated to which the nucleophile can attack. So some of the reaction is with alkyl halides reaction with hydroxide ion to give your alcohol, and the leaving group is your chlorine, chloride ion. Alkyl bromide, that is ethyl bromide, when you thiol ion, it forms your thiol group. You get a thiol group SH with the bromine leaving. Similarly, alkoxide, it gives an ether with a thiomethyl ether alkyl group. You get a thioether group with an NH2 ion. You get an primary amine. If you treat it with the acetylenic ion, you get an acetylene linkage, and if you treat it with cyanide ion, you get a corresponding cyano compound substitution product. So these are some of the examples of your nucleophilic substitution reaction. Okay, so now let's go for the kinetics. So since it is a bimolecular reaction, SN2, it is a substitution nucleophilic bimolecular reaction, means it depends upon the concentration of both your substrate as well as your nucleophile. Here the substrate is alkyl halide and the nucleophile. So rate law includes that the rate of the reaction depends upon both your alkyl halide and your nucleophile, and it is a second order reaction. It's a second order reaction. So now let's see the stereochemistry. So stereochemistry, what does it say? So when there is, in case of SN2 reaction, think it is a single step reaction. It's a single step reaction. So the nucleophile attacks and the leaving group simultaneously is leaving the substrate. So what happens? Your nucleophile is negatively charged and the leaving group which is leaving the substrate is also negatively charged. So they can't attack from the same side. They cannot attack from the same side. If there is attack from the same side, there is repulsion and your reaction becomes very unstable. That's the reason why your SN2 reaction, the nucleophile attacks the substrate from the back side of the leaving group. Okay, so if your starting material, if you take a R configuration compound, your product will be of S configuration. Your product will be of S configuration. You get, so in the stereochemistry of your SN2 reaction is it undergoes inversion of configuration. It undergoes inversion of configuration, and it is also known as Walden's inversion or backside attack. It's also known as Walden's inversion or a backside attack of your nucleophile, where the nucleophile attacks from the opposite side of the leaving group, from the opposite side of the leaving group, and thus there is an inversion of configurations, and this is known as what? Walden's inversion. Walden's inversion is nothing but change in configuration of your product in comparison to your starting material. You get the exact opposite configuration of your product as that in comparison to your starting material. So what happens in this case? So then initially you got an compound which is of R configuration. So the nucleophile attack. So in the intermediate state, an activation complex is formed which has got an trigonal planar configuration. It has got a trigonal planar configuration, means all the three other than your other than your leaving group and your nucleophile, rest of the three substitution on the carbon will be a planar trigonal configuration, because there is simultaneous breaking and making of. Okay, so once this stage is attained, so the leaving group is lost and your nucleophile gets attached to your intermediate stage, and thus you get a configuration which is exactly inverted to that of your starting material. So this is thus the inversion of configuration takes place. So if the starting material has got a one configuration, the product will be of the exact opposite configuration. This is the peculiarity of your SN2 reaction. Now what type of substrate is necessary? So in case of SN2 reaction, the substrate should be bulky. If it should be less bulky. So if it is less bulky, then the nucleophile can easily attack on the substrate and the leaving group can easily leave. If it is too bulky, then the nucleophile cannot attack your substrate and thus the reaction is not feasible and should stabilize your transition state. So your transition state should be stabilized. Okay. So the most important thing is that in case of SN2 reaction, the substitution should be less bulky. Now let us see some of the examples. Let us see some of the methyl bromide. The rate of reaction is 150. Okay, it's very fast. Whereas your similarly, if it is an alkyl bromide which has got higher substitution, okay, methyl bromide is a similarly a primary alkyl halide which has got bigger in size, high molecular weight, the reactions will be smaller because of the bulkiness. Now the secondary alkyl halide, the reaction is still slow and your tertiary alkyl halide will not undergo your nucleophilic substitution reaction. Will not undergo nucleophilic substitution reaction. Okay. So now you can see this diagram over here. So this is an methyl bromide. So you can see the black portion, that is your carbon, and your brown portion is your leaving group. So this nucleophile can easily attack on the carbon. Now when there is an secondary amine, when there is a secondary amine, so if you see, this is methyl bromide, this is ethyl bromide, the bulkiness increases, your carbon is less available to attack, whereas in secondary carbon, still the carbon is fully occupied, so the nucleophile cannot. And in case of tertiary, that you see over here, the central carbon is completely masked, so the nucleophile cannot attack from the backside. So that's the reason why the SN2 reaction is more favorable only in case of primary alcohol. That also it should be a methyl halide. So for the reaction to occur. Okay, that's the reason. Now effect of nucleophile. SN2 reaction. Now what is the nucleophile? What type of nucleophile? Nucleophilism may be correlated to the availability of the lone pair of electron and the ease with which it is donated. So nucleophilism depends upon what? The availability of the lone pair of electron. Means how easily the lone pair of electrons is available and also with which the ease the lone pair is electron. So this depends, this sets the trend for your nucleophilic center. So for a nucleophile to be good nucleophile, it should be able to donate its lone pair of electron as well as the lone pair should be easily available. So they should be charged and the lone pair should be available. So these are the two criteria for your nucleophilism. So when you go down the periodic table, the size increases and the polarizability increases. What is the polarizability? So as the size increases, the polarizability means charge distribution between the two elements increases, and as the size increases, the nucleophilicity increases. So iodine is more nucleophile than bromine, than chlorine, than chlorine. So nucleophilicity increases with the size of the element down the periodic table. Okay. Of the conjugate base pair, base are stronger. So now you take an hydroxide ion, OH minus. So its conjugated acid is water. So your base is more stronger than your corresponding conjugated acid. So NH2 ion is more basic than your NH3 conjugate base, which that's why your NH2 will be more nucleophilic than your corresponding ammonia. Okay, similarly hydroxide will be more basic and nucleophilic than your corresponding water molecule. Okay, please remember this thing. the conjugate acid of the base will be less nucleophilic than that of your hello, hello, yeah, speaking. Yeah, tell me, Roxis. Yeah, yeah. Today, when did you send it? My thing, yeah, I think we have told now which one. White one with that thing. No, 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 not the cream one. White is fine. I think white is fine. White is fine. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Hmm. You can just send it to me. If it is fine, then that will be one design only. The card. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll just send you his number. I'll just send you his number. Okay. I'll just send you his number. I'll send you his number right now. Okay. 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 Bye. Okay. So the conjugate acid of the base will be lesser nucleophilic than compared to your corresponding base. Okay, because the lone pair is easily available in case of your base rather than your conjugated acid. Okay, now let's go for the next one. So now what is polarizability and nucleo, how they are related? Okay, how polarizability is related. Okay, what is polarized, like iodine and your leaving group. So the more the bulkier, the more the polarized, so it can attack. Whereas fluorine being less, so the polarizability will be less and the nucleophilicity also will be less. Okay, so this is the relation between your polarizability and your nucleophile. More the polarized, more the nucleophilic. Now what is the effect of your nucleophile? As I said, your conjugate, so your base will be more nucleophilic than your corresponding conjugated acid. So let us consider methoxide ion. So it is a base. So it can attack your methyl iodide to give your corresponding ester. Similarly, if you try to do the reaction with methanol, which is not a strong nucleophile, okay, the lone pair is not easily available, so it cannot attack. So it will be a slow reaction. So the nucleophilic strength increases with your conjugate, so with your base in comparison to your conjugated acid, because negatively charged nucleophile is always stronger than its conjugated acid. So let us see the comparison: strong base, better nucleophile, OH, methoxide and NH2 ion. In comparison to their weaker bases are water, methanol and ammonia, which are the nothing but your conjugated acids of your corresponding bases. So there is a direct relationship between your basicity and nucleophile is maintained if the reactions occur in your gaseous phase. So there is a direct relationship between basicity and nucleophilicity. So nucleophilic strength. So stronger nucleophile, as you know, will be a strong. The reaction rate will be faster, and stronger bases are usually strong nuclear. But not all nucleophiles are strong or basic in nature. So some of the, like SH and all, they are more nucleophile. But fluorine and all, they are highly basic, but they are weak nucleophile. Water, though they are slightly basic, but they are not nucleophile because of the less availability of the lone pair of electron. So these are some of the examples which I have shown it in the chart. Okay. Now the leaving group. A good leaving group needs to be a stable anions and that are weak bases which can delocalize the charge. So anything which can stabilize the charge and delocalize the charge. So any stable ion, so stability of the ion increases with the size. So bigger size compounds are more stable. They can act as a very good leaving group. Okay. So anything that stabilizes the anion and that are weak bases and can localize are a good leaving group. Are good leaving group. So OH, NH2, they are highly unstable ions, so they cannot be you act as an leaving group. So only a like higher molecular weight bromine, iodine, which and tosylate, which can be stabilized. The tosylate can be stabilized because of the resonance stabilizations. Okay, so leaving groups are the one which are form a stable weak base where and they can delocalize the charge which is present on this. So this is the effect of leaving group. Okay, now the solvent. Now the solvent. There are solvents are of two types, non-polar and polar. So there are two types of non-polar solvent means organic solvent which can dissolve organic compounds, whereas polar solvents there are of two types, polar protic solvent and polar aprotic solvent. And SN2 reaction prefers polar aprotic solvent. Now what is this polar aprotic solvent? So let's go by one. So let's go for polar protic solvent. So polar protic solvent contains OH-NH group, which reduces the strength of nucleic acid. So when these polar solvents are present, which contains OH and NH2 group, what they form? They form a hydrogen bond across the substrate. What do they form? They form a hydrogen bonds across the substrate, and extra energy is required to break the bond. And the nucleophile. So first, before the nucleophile can attack, the hydrogen bond should be broken. So that's the reason why the rate of reaction will be slower in case of SN2 mechanism when we use polar protic solvent. So polar protic solvent contains OH, NH2 like methanol, water, ethanol, and all. They are all examples of polar protic solvent because they donate an hydrogen bond, proton, as well as they form an hydrogen bond with your substrate, increasing the hydrogen bond. So this will reduce the rate of the reaction. So if you can see it over here, so this water will form your hydrogen bonds with your solvent. So HF will form hydrogen bonds with your sulfur. So that will increase the hydrogen bonding. So more when the hydrogen bonding is present, your reactivity will be decreased. So you should never use an polar protic solvent. Instead of polar protic solvent, if you use a polar aprotic solvent, means which does not contain OH NH2 group. Anything, the solvents which do not contain OH NH2 groups do not form hydrogen bonds with the nucleophiles. So they do not form an hydrogen bond with your nucleophile. They only solvate the substrate and nucleophile, but they do not form a hydrogen bond. Examples of such solvents are acetonitrile, DMF, acetone. Okay, acetonitrile, DMF, and acetone. So this was compared. So to confirm this, they try to do the reaction in polar protic solvent and polar aprotic solvent, like methyl iodide with sodium azide to give your methyl azide. Okay. So the rate of reaction when they did it with methanol was just 33. Was 1. Whereas when we did the same reaction in DMF, the rate of reaction increased 10 folds. Okay. And in DMF, so it still further increased. Okay. So this was found that when you change the solvent from polar to aprotic solvent, when you change the solvent from polar protic solvent to polar aprotic solvent, the rate of reaction tried to increase. Why this reason was in methanol both sodium and azide are solvated. So when the sodium and azide are solvated, they are not easily available for the reaction to occur. Whereas in DMF, sodium is only solvated but not azide. Okay, and the unsolvated azide is much powerful nucleophile. This is how the reaction occurs. So the faster the reactions will occur when you use a polar aprotic solvent in case of your SN2 reaction. This is the effect of solvent. Now let's go for the SN1 reaction. So what is SN1? Substitution nucleophilic unimolecular. So this particular reaction depends upon only the concentration of your substrate, does not depend upon the concentration of your nuclei. Okay, that is very much important to be remember. It's a two-step reaction. The first step is the leaving group leaves the substrates forming a carbocation intermediate, and this is a slow step. This is followed by fast attack of your nucleophile on the carbocation to form your product. So these are the two steps of the reaction. These are the two steps of the reaction involved in your SN1 reaction. Okay. Now SN1 reaction, what happens? First step is what? Loss of your leaving group to form a carbocation. And once this carbocation is formed, it attains a trigonal configuration. What does it attain? It attains a trigonal configuration. It attains a trigonal configuration. And once it attains the trigonal configuration, then the nucleophile can attack from either side of the carbocation, from the upper side or the lower side of the trigonal planar configuration. So this is the reason why we get a racemic mixture. You get a racemic mixture because the nucleophile can attack from the front side as well as the equal probability of attacking from the front as well as the back side. That's why we get a racemic mixture. So in case of SN1 reaction, the stereochemistry is you get a racemic mixture. Okay. And the steps, the first step is the slow step, that is the loss of your leaving group to form a carbocation. And as you know, your primary, secondary and tertiary, in case of primary, secondary, tertiary carbocation, the tertiary carbocation is more stable than your secondary than your primary because of the positive inductive effect of your methyl group. So they will try to donate electrons to the carbocation and stabilize the carbocation. Anything that stabilizes the carbocation will favor the reaction. So that's the reason why your SN1 reaction is more favorable in case of tertiary carbocation than your primary, secondary and your primary. Okay. So second step is then once this carbocation is formed, then it can attack from the both the sides and you get, and it loses stereospecificity. What is stereospecific means? If the starting material has one configuration, then the product should have a particular configuration. But here there is no any specific configuration. It can attain both the configuration. That's why it is not a stereospecific reaction. SN1 is not a stereospecific reaction, whereas SN2 is a stereospecific reaction because you get a compound of a particular configuration in case of SN2 reaction. So kinetics. So it follows a first order kinetics. That means it depends upon the concentration only of your substrate, because this was experimentally found that if you try to change the concentration of your nucleophile or this thing, it does not affect the rate of reaction. So later on they confirm that it is your SN1 reaction follows your first order kinetics. So this is your starting material, it reaches to first transition state, your intermediate is formed, that is your leaving group is left, then again the nucleophile attacks and you get your product. Okay, it's a two-step reaction and it follows the first order kinetic reaction where the reaction rate depends upon the concentration of the substrate only, not of the product, not of the product. So let us see the stereochemistry. So as I mentioned, your first step is the slow formation of carbocation. Okay, halide undergoes slow ionization to give your R plus and Cl minus, followed by the fast attack of your OH or the solvent or the nucleophile. Then once this carbocation is formed, that can be attacked by either your solvent OH or your nucleophile. And the energy required, initial ionization energy is largely recovered by the energy involved in the through the solvation of the resultant ion pair. Okay. So what happens if you see the once you take your reagent, you there is a loss of your leaving formation of a carbocation, and this carbocation that can be attacked by the nucleophile or the solvent molecule from the both the sides. So you get there is a 50% conversion into one configuration 50% into another one. So one way there will be retention of configuration, one there will be inversion of configuration, and thus you get a racemic mixture, and the net will be 0. Net charge will be, degree of rotation will be 0 of this compound. So let's take an example. Okay, you take an compound that is you take a tertiary alkyl halide. Okay, take this particular example, that is a tertiary alkyl halide. You treat it with the nucleophile, that is ethanol. What is the first step? Loss of your leaving group, that is a bromine, to form a carbocation. Now this another nucleophile, that is a ethanol, will attack your carbocation either from the front end or on the back end. So there might be either a retention or your inversion of configuration, and you get a racemic mixture. So what is the stereochemistry of the SN2 reaction, SN1 reaction? It will be, there will be racemization. That means you get equal concentration of both of your product. That is R. If we start from R, you get an S and R in equal proportion. So now the substrate, and as you've seen, SN1 reaction is favored by a substituent which is bulkier in group, so that it stabilizes your carbocation. So your tertiary carbocation, if you take tertiary alkyl halide and it undergoes a cleavage to form a tertiary carbocation, your secondary will undergo cleavage to form secondary carbocation, and primary will go to form primary carbocation, and methyl bromide will give you methyl carbocation. So if you say in tertiary carbocation there are 3 methyl group attached to your carbocation, whereas in secondary there are 2 methyl group attached to your carbocation, and in case of your primary carbocation only one group is added, whereas in case of methyl carbocation no methyl group. So as you see, as the methyl substitution increases, the positive inductive effect increases, and that stabilizes your carbocation. So your tertiary carbocations are more stable than your secondary and your primary and your methyl, and this favors the reaction. So more substituted alkyl halides will undergo an SN1 mechanism rather than an SN2 type of reaction. So now what is the effect of nucleophile on the SN1? There is no effect of your nucleophile. Even a weak nucleophile can undergo SN1 reaction. So you can do the reaction even in water. Your SN1 reaction can be done in presence of water. If you just add water and you do the reaction, it will give you a product. So the rate of reaction does not depend upon the concentration of your nucleophile, but it only depends upon the formation of your carbocation from the substrate. So the rate of reaction depends only on the substrate, not on the nucleophile. Now, in case of SN1 reaction, polar protic solvent, which can act as both solvent and a nucleophile in case of reaction, that leads to solvosis. So in case of SN1 reaction, you require a polar protic solvent, whereas in case of SN2 reaction, you require a polar aprotic solvent. So the reactions are much faster when you use solvents like water, methanol, ethanol, acetic acid, and formic acid. They act as both solvent as well as the nucleophile for the reaction to undergo. Similar there, the effect of leaving group is similar to that of an SN1 reaction. Bulkier groups with polarizability will be which has got good leaving group property will be more. So your iodine will be more preferable than your bromine, than chlorine, than hydroxide. So this is the priority. Okay. So solvents, effect of solvent, any solvent which has got high dielectric constant can be used for your SN1 reaction, because this highly charged solvents will stabilize the carbocation and the nucleophile, and thus the reaction it takes place faster in case of polar protic solvent rather than an polar protic solvent because of the solvation. Okay, very important thing to be remembered. So now let's see the differences between their SN2 and SN1 reaction. So in case of SN2 reaction, your substrate should be always be a primary alkyl, primary or methyl alkyl halides or others groups. Whereas in case of SN1 reaction, the reaction should take place in presence of your tertiary alkyl halides. In case of SN2 reaction, it requires a strong nucleophile, whereas in case of SN1 reaction, it requires a weak nucleophile, and the solvent may also act as a nucleophile. SN2 reaction takes place in presence of polar aprotic solvent, whereas SN1 reaction takes place in presence of polar protic solvent. The rate of reaction depends upon the concentration of both substrate as well as the nucleophile, whereas rate of reaction in case of SN1 reaction depends upon the concentration of the substrate only. There is inversion of configuration that takes place in your SN2 reaction, where there is racemization that takes place in your SN1 reaction. No rearrangement occurs in your SN2 reaction, whereas rearrangements are found in case of SN1. Why? Because your reaction depends upon the stability of carbon cation. Anything that can lead to formation of stable carbocation will be formed. That's why your SN1 reaction, the rearrangement can occur, whereas in SN2 reaction, the no rearrangement occurs. Now let's see the types of rearrangement. Okay, the carbocation can rearrange to form a more stable carbocation. So what did he say? Anything which forms a more stable carbocation will be favored over the less stable carbocation. Okay, there are two types of rearrangement that will be occur, either due to hydride shift, where H minus hydride ion which is adjacent to your carbon bonds with C will migrate. When the next example is methyl shift, where the methyl ion will move from the adjacent carbon if there are no hydrogens available. So if there are no hydrogen arrival, then the alkyl group or the methyl group which is adjacent to that particular carbon will be available for rearrangement. Now let's go for one by one. Hydride shift, if you can see, first step you can see. What is the example? What is hydride shift? You get a secondary carbon cation. So adjacent, if you see over here, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 methyl, 2 bromo, 3 methyl butane. If it undergoes, when the leaving group is lost, you get your carbocation. So that is your secondary carbon. But once there is an hydrogen shift, when there is a shift of hydrogen atom from here, when it goes over here, it gives a formation of a tertiary carbocation. And since you know the tertiary carbocations are more stable than secondary carbocations, so you get an substitution which is at the second position rather than the third position where the bromide is found. So instead of your three substituted nucleophile, you get a 2 substituted nucleophilic reaction. So that undergoes rearrangement. Next step of rearrangement is your methyl shift. It's your methyl shift. So if there are, instead of your hydrogen in this case, if there is a methyl group, so let us take 2,2-dimethyl butane, 3-bromo butane. So instead of your adjacent carbon contains a methyl group. Okay, you contains a methyl group. The carbocation is formed. So this is a secondary carbocation. So when this methyl from the adjacent moves to this particular carbon, you get a tertiary carbocation. So you get a rearrangement product in case of substituted alkyl groups. Okay, when there it contains a substitution with the methyl and hydrogen, where it can form a more stable carbocation, it undergoes rearrangement to give such type of product. Okay, we give you such type of product.